everyone, and welcome back to the YouTube channel, the Literacy Volunteers of Harrison County. We are a nonprofit United Way agency. I just went over the urinary system in lesson 7, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about adrenaline. We looked at the adrenal glands. I told you that ad means on top of and renal means kidney. So what the adrenal glands produce is adrenaline, which makes sense. And adrenaline is a hormone. It's secreted by those glands, and it acts with another hormone called noradrenaline. And noradrenaline is to prepare the body for, or both of these together, for what we call fight or flight. And you've probably heard that before. When you get that rush of adrenaline, either you're going to stay and fight or you're going to run. And that's sort of an evolutionary construct of our kidneys and our brains here. They are produced in the center, and when we talk in biology about the center of something, it's called the medulla. So if you see medulla, that just means it's in the center of the adrenal glands, and also in some neurons of the central nervous system. And I'm going to show you a little bit of anatomy of a neuron so you kind of understand that better here in a minute. They're released into our bloodstream, and they act very quickly, and they serve as what are called chemical mediators. A mediator is something that goes between two things. So these are chemicals that are go-betweens so we can get a reaction from them. And they also convey nerve impulses to various organs. Adrenaline acts differently depending on which cells we're going to look at and where they are located in the body. In times of stress, it's released, and what happens that you get that fight or flight from increased heart rate, because if you have to run or if you have to get away, your heart rate needs to increase. Also, your blood pressure increases, which makes sense because your blood pressure is just the force of blood on your veins and arteries, right? And it'll expand your air passages to your lungs so that you can get more oxygen, which is also needed for running. Enlarge the pupils of your eye. If we study the anatomy of the eye, when we enlarge the pupils, we let more light in, and we can see more things. So we need to be able to see things whenever that happens. It will redistribute blood to your muscles, which means it reroutes it. If you just ate a meal, most of your blood's going to be shunted to your digestive system. If we have adrenaline and you need to run, we want that in our muscles because that's where we get our energy from to run. It will alter the body's metabolism, and what that does is it maximizes our glucose levels, typically in the brain. Glucose is the sugar that your body uses to function. It's a byproduct of photosynthesis, and you get that in things that you eat. Humans will store that as glycogen, but we can break it down into glucose. And that process happens very quickly, in usually 2 to 3 minutes. All of these things can happen to your body when adrenaline is produced in your adrenal glands. Noradrenaline is released mainly in the nerve endings in the sympathetic nervous system. That's why it's called a neurotransmitter. We'll look at that over here. What is a neurotransmitter? When we're looking at neurotransmitters, the neuron is the basic unit of cell for the brain, spinal cord, things like that, and nerves in your body that go to everything. This is the basic anatomy of a nerve. You have a cell body, and you have these long branches here that are called dendrites. Dendra in Latin means tree. So they look like tree branches. You go to the dentist, your teeth, they have little branches and roots on the end. And then this long part here is called an axon. And then here at the end we have more dendrites. But this little tiny space in between the dendrites of one neuron and the dendrites of this neuron is called a synapse. And in this little space is where all the magic occurs. That's where neurotransmitters are released. So as a nerve impulse, as all electricity goes down this neuron, it'll stimulate those to release a neurotransmitter into the synapse. There are little receptors on the other side that will adhere to those neurotransmitters, and it's sort of like a lock and key mechanism. It opens up the next neurotransmitter, the next nerve. And this is, we have these in our brain, and we have these in different parts of our body. That's where noradrenaline works, in the synapse, whereas adrenaline goes straightly to the bloodstream. So one's nervous and one's blood, but still we get the same reaction. So we look at stress, and stress here is going to produce adrenaline and noradrenaline, but it also produces cortisol. And cortisol is also produced in the adrenal glands, but on the cortex, that means the outside. And that's a steroid hormone, and not steroids like weightlifting, but steroid has to do with how many rings there are in the biological structure. And it's more important to alter the body's metabolism if we have chronic stress, stress that occurs on a daily basis. Say you have anxiety that produces stress in your life, that will produce cortisol in your body, and one of the bad things about cortisol is it latches onto the fat cells in your body and causes those to stay, and you can't lose them. So that's chronic stress, but cortisol is also produced in the adrenal gland. I just wanted to give you one quick thing about overproduction of adrenaline. If your body produces too much adrenaline, and we see this in some obese people that have sleep apnea, that means that you stop breathing when you're sleeping. Sleep apnea. And what happens then, we get high levels of noradrenaline and adrenaline every night as they struggle to breathe. And that can increase your blood pressure. And so some of those things play a very bad role in things that can happen to you if you have too much of these hormones in your system, and then you have high blood pressure, and then it can cause you to die. That's why they give you those CPAP machines to pump more oxygen into your system, so that doesn't happen, that you don't stop breathing while you're sleeping. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about adrenaline, because we were talking about the urinary system and the adrenal glands. So if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, and we would love for you to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.